Evelyn to Philip, October 30th, 1944. Dearest Philip, this morning there was quite a bit of mail. Your letters of October 11, 13, and 14 were present, and letters from Jack N. and Jack S. I am enclosing Jack N.'s in the hope that you will find some time to reply. I'm a little surprised at you for letting it go this long. And now to answer your mail. I can't believe that anyone can make $8,000 gambling in one day. Or it's just that I'm not used to that kind of money. I wouldn't mind getting used to it. The eye doctor is an optometrist. I'm sure I've mentioned it before. Mom only needed glasses to read the newspaper as she could never see the type clearly. I think I told you that also. I like the idea of those courses you mentioned, and only hope you get to take advantage of them. I'll bet you could teach elementary English grammar. No kidding. That just about answers all three letters, except, of course, your loving sentiments. I'll get to that in due time. I didn't get to a movie last night after all. I was too tired by the time I got Adele to bed, cleaned her shoes, washed the few things there were to wash, and straightened up. I try very hard to get away in the evenings, but just can't seem to manage it. I'm in need of some recreation, but I don't mind waiting for a chance, as long as I have some mail from you to keep my spirits up. Mr. First, the notary public and insurance man a few doors away, is most anxious to have me learn the insurance business, so that I can be of help to him in my spare time. It isn't a bad idea, for he pays well, and I like to work for him. I do a bit of work for him from time to time in the evening. Usually I type some minutes for him, or a letter or two, and he gives me $1 for about an hour's work, which isn't bad at all. Page 2. Jack N.'s new address is as follows. Private J.N. 32,983,798, Ward C12, Borden General Hospital, Chickasha, Oklahoma. Goldie had a letter from Jack S., and he said he was put up for sergeant and expects his stripe any day. Since I'm just about out of news, I'll get on with the sweet sentiments. Your letters only made me wish harder for the day when we will be reunited once more. The whole thing seems to be dragging along, and I can't help getting rather impatient with it at times. Phil, darling, I adore you so much, and it's so hard to wait and wait and wait. It's as you say, if 14 months is a long time, then all the time we'll be together after will be that much longer. And so we come to the end of another day. I'm glad you at least had word from Eddie, since it has been so long since we heard from him. As long as things keep going as they are, I haven't a complaint, though it wouldn't do me any good to complain. There are so many things that aren't as they should be, but they'll all be all right someday. They've just got to be. Good night for now, precious one. God bless you and keep you, for your Ev. Philip to Evelyn, 30 October 1944. Ev, dearest, last night Klein and I went into town to visit with Evelyn and Bert. Evelyn's father, Mr. Cohen, was also there. He's a very nice old gentleman and must have been very handsome in his day. He, Bert, and I played rummy for a while until supper time. Believe it or not, they eat supper at 10 p.m. Evelyn received your letter and had a great time teasing me about it. I asked her if I could see it, and you should have seen the reaction. Evelyn, Mr. Cohen, Bert, and even Klein acted like I had committed murder or something. No kidding. Sweet, their shocked expressions and condemnation of me for presuming to ask to read my wife's letter was so spontaneous and outraged that I was dumbfounded. I'm still not sure whether they were kidding me or not, as to whether they were really indignant at my request to read other people's mail, but I do know that I didn't get to see the letter. All the time they kept talking among themselves, for my benefit, about whether they should answer your query about whether I make dates with other women over here. That, I knew, was strictly the bunk, because I flattered myself that you wouldn't dream of asking them a question like that one. I told them as much, but that didn't deter them from ribbing me. By this time I was most impatient to read your letter, and I threatened Evelyn, page 2, with all sorts of dire reprisals if she didn't produce it. But evidently she wasn't impressed, because she persisted in being contrary about it. Now that they've had their fun, I guess they'll let me see it next time I visit. I hope. Today I was kept busy with the company history. In the afternoon your 3 V-mails arrived. Hallelujah. They are dated 16, 19, 22 October. That of the 16th advised me that my mail was still held up, that you were feeling pretty glum about it, that Harry is getting the station, that Jack is undecided about whether he should come home for a few weeks or stick it out till he can come home for good, that Ethel and Mary came down from Canada, and that the pumpkin is having her way with Abe, and you too, you old softy. The only thing that calls for comment is Jack's little problem. You don't know it, sweet, but there may come a time when I'll have to make a like decision, and that day may not be very far in the future. But I have definitely made up my mind that rather than take 3 or 4 months in the States and facing the possibility of shipping out at the end of that time to the Pacific Theater, I'd rather stick it out over here that much longer, thereby greatly reducing the possibility of ever seeing the Pacific Theater. I know you will agree that this is the wisest course, because I remember that you said that the next time we are reunited, page 3, you don't want to face another separation. Neither, for that matter, do I. Personally, I think Jack would be a fool to come home until he knows it is permanent. But as you say, it is up to him to decide. I'm sure he is level-headed enough to recognize the right thing to do. On the 19th, you write that you had a letter from Sid. Poor kid. He must be having a pretty rough time of it. I'm glad I have a letter on the way to him. The remainder of the letter inspires no particular comment. On the 22nd, you devoted half the letter to a description of Adele's new suit that you had bought from Mr. Gorin. From your description, I would say you got a very good buy. Tell the pumpkin to wear it in the best of health, for me. What's this about Short Pants becoming such a swell dancer? He must be pretty darn good if you compare him with Jack N. Can't say that I blame him, though, for liking to dance with you, sweet. You are, and I say this without prejudice, one of the most graceful dancers I ever saw. If you remember, it was your dancing that attracted me to you from the first. Keep in practice, sweet, because it's been so long since I've danced that you may have to coach me for a while after I get back. You drew a pretty delightful picture, Chippy, when you described your dad dancing with your mom and Adele for dancing with her dolly. I gather that your folks must be getting on much better with each other these days, eh? Well, Chippy, that about finishes me up for tonight. See you tomorrow, baby. Until then, I am your ever-loving Phil. P.S. My love to all, but especially to you, my Evie.